Are you trying too hard? Or maybe not hard enough? Hi there. I'm Julie Turner, julieturner.ca, and I'm here to talk to you guys about trying too hard or how sometimes we don't try hard enough. Um, Before we get started, if you like my content, that would be awesome. Like it, share it, comment on it, subscribe to my YouTube channel, all those fun things, all those things that I'm constantly asking you to do. Please, that would be super beneficial to me and hopefully to you guys. Before we get into the content of today, I want to remind you that fantasticlife.io is up and running, the world's first nutrition hormone balancing nutrition app. And on June 16th at 1 p.m. PST, myself as host and Dr. Sonia Jensen as educator will be doing a webinar. We'll be doing a webinar on what is the best diet plan for you. So in fantasticlife.io, that's the website, you can literally go there, answer a whole bunch of questions, but trust me, it's worth it. And then you find out where you are in the spectrum and what the best foods for you are and what foods you should maybe avoid, the best exercise for you. It's like super amazing, and it is $9.99 to get your nutrition plan. So it is so worth it. So wait though, don't do it while I'm talking to you. I'll try and remind you at the end of it because of course I'm very important right now. So you need to listen to me. Just kidding. All right. Are you trying hard enough? Or are you trying too hard? So the question was actually originally, are you trying too hard? So what happens when somebody tries too hard? Which actually made me reflect on a conversation I had years ago. And I'm going to bring this up again because I haven't brought it up in a while and you guys probably haven't heard it. And if you have, you can just tune out, play the Jeopardy theme in your head, whatever you need to do. So I was having a conversation with a good friend of mine, and she is a counselor, clinical counselor. And she said, do you think people try hard enough? Or do their best, was what she said. Do you think people do their best? And she didn't even get the words out of her mouth, and I'm like, nope. No, I do not. I don't think people do their best. I know I don't do my best, and I'm pretty good at, doing well. I'm pretty accountable to myself. I'm pretty forward thinking. I'm pretty driven. I don't always do my best in any category of life. I'm just saying. Uh, but she was like, oh my goodness, how can you say that? I think people do their best. And I'm like, that's hilarious. Uh, Her thought process was that people do the best they can with the tools that they have at the time. I would still argue that we don't. I would still argue that a lot of the time we let ourselves off the hook. However, that was not her mindset. That was not her thought process, and that's totally fair. I'm not here to change everybody's mind, but again, I thought it was quite funny because I don't think we do our best. I really don't. I think we default. I think we often just kind of allow ourselves to run on autopilot. And I'm not saying we always do this, but I'm saying we often do it. And, it is what it is. Again, I'm not here to judge it, but think about that. Are you doing your best in all the areas of your life at all times? Probably not. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. My goodness, how exhausting would that be? Like I said, I know I certainly don't do my best. I try and do my best. Ooh, try. There's a word that people don't like to use. People in my industry, coaches, hypnotherapists, they don't like to use the word try. I'm not here to correct your English either. So I try, and I'm going to use it, to do my best when it comes to treating people kindly. But am I 100% at that? No. I get triggered. Sometimes I'm not the most amazing person on earth. So are you always doing your best? Nope. I would argue that we are not. Now, the actual question, now I asked somebody that's very important to me. He actually watches my videos. At least sometimes he does. And he's like, that maybe you should ask this question. Maybe you should talk about this subject. So he gave me a few subjects that he thought would be interesting to talk about. And one of them was, are you trying too hard in romantic relationships? So I'm going to kind of broaden that into relationships in general. But what that would look like to me, and I'm going to talk about from male to female and female to male. And then, of course, if you're in a same sex relationship or you're dating same sex, um, obviously apply. If you're a male, this is a male behavior, and if you're a female, tends to be a female behavior. So, one of the male behaviors that I find that I come up against in my practice and, of course, in my personal life is when people are trying too hard. Men do something that I like to call show and tell. So, right off the bat, they want you, and I'm not saying that women never do this, it just tends to be a more male dominant behavior. So, men tend to try and show you everything that they are and everything that they do immediately. I don't have my microphone near my face. Hopefully, you guys were hearing me. I'm sure that you are. I'm pretty loud. So, they tend to do something I call show and tell. So, it's like, this is what I can do, and I'm amazing at this, and so on and so on. And again, this is not every man by any means. This is generally the more alpha, that they need you to know how fast, how strong, how powerful, how successful, whatever the case may be, depending on the human. And sometimes that comes off as arrogance. So, ladies that are watching right now, first of all, men that are watching right now, please know that we want to get to know you. We actually want to experience you. We don't want to hear what you believe is your best attributes. We want to actually experience them. So doing is always more important than saying. Always, in every essence of the word. Like, what you're doing is what we're actually going to be receiving, whereas what you're saying is always debatable, right? So, just show up. Just show up and be your amazing self. Now, ladies that are watching this, I want you to remember that this is not always something that men are conscious of or that people are conscious of. Because again, this does happen. Women do this as well. It's not exclusively to men. It just tends to be a more male dominant thing. So, ladies, when this happens, or gentlemen, when a woman does this, please know that it's the intent is not arrogance. The intent is not to show off. The intent is to literally provide, so to speak, right? So they're right off the hop saying, like, I can do this. I'm amazing. I'm strong. So it does come off as trying too hard. It's not necessary. Lead by example is always the best case scenario. And again, what you do is far more important than what you say. It is truly who you are. So please, just show up as your authentic self. You don't need to talk about it at all. Now, having said that, let's talk about the reverse, trying too hard. Now, this tends to be a female thing. And again, not exclusively, but tends to be a female thing. Females tend to show up, presented really well. And they also tend to, filter themselves significantly. They worry about what they say. And again, men do this too, don't get me wrong, but it tends to be more female that they're presenting themselves really well at first, or that what they perceive to be really well. And the interesting thing about that is most people want a human. Like, they want you to be a little bit ridiculous sometimes. They want you to be a little bit silly. They want you to be human so that they're allowed to be that as well. They don't have to feel like they need to keep themselves, in check at all times. So the whole point is, are we trying too hard at the beginning of a relationship, and is it shooting us in the foot? Yep, sometimes we are, and yes, it will definitely shoot you in the foot. 100%. Whether it's because you're like talking about yourself and how awesome and amazing and everything that you've ever done in your life. And I got to tell you, I am way more interested in what's happening right here and now than what you've done in your life. I'm way more interested in what's happening here and now and possibly in the future than, again, what historically you have done. And that doesn't mean that you don't ever talk about any of your experiences, because of course things will come up in conversation. You'll be like, oh yeah, like that, I did that and this is how I experienced it, like that kind of thing. But you don't need to give a resume on a date as to all of the achievements that you have accomplished in your life. It's really not relevant to the future of that relationship, or at least it shouldn't be. Like if there's anybody that you're dating that is like, how successful have you been in athletics? How successful have you been in like all these things? If somebody wants your resume, they're not really there to meet and understand you. And that may be judgmental on my part to say that that person is never. Sometimes we're trained to do that. There's lots of coaches out there training people to do all kinds of ridiculous things that are not authentic to them. So just be careful when it comes to that. All right. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns about Outrage, whether it's on this live right now or whether it is in the replay, please send them. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. All right. I'm going to do a card just because I like doing cards and they bring up different conversation. That's why I do cards. For any of you that have not watched a video of mine before, please know the reason that I do cards, first of all, it allows me to say things to you that probably would come off as a little bit crazy town if I just openly said them to you, because sometimes I get feelings I need to say things, and the cards back me up on that. So that's fun for me. And the other thing is that the cards will always bring up a conversation that wouldn't have been brought up. So when I work with a client one-on-one, which I am taking new clients, just to FYI, when I'm working with clients one-on-one, sometimes I'll do a card for them, and then we can have a conversation that wouldn't have come up in that session normally without the cards. So that's why I do it. Now, speaking of me, because, I'm the one who's talking, I have a new class. I'm in week 8, just finished week 8 of my current class, of a 14-week class, and I'm starting another class. I'm starting a morning class next week, at least this morning PST. So I do have one more space for that class. If you want to take that space, it starts Tuesday, 10:30 a.m. PST. Let me know. All right, what card jumped out? Ooh, Queen of Materials. So what you guys need to think about is, whenever a materials comes up, I kind of get the energy of it's okay to make money. It's okay to be successful. It's okay to want more. A lot of the time, especially when it comes to spiritual people, they tend to, kind of push the idea of specifically earning money away. Not always. Again, I'm generalizing. So the Queen of Materials is here to tell you that something really good is coming. Pay attention to the opportunities that you get. Now, sometimes I know for myself, because I'm in the public and I post things on LinkedIn and Facebook and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes I get opportunities that I'm like, this is not an opportunity for me. Sometimes it's actually kind of insulting because I'm like, have you checked out what I'm already doing? Like, I'm not going there. But sometimes it is a real opportunity, and kind of feel through your gut what is an opportunity and what is, somebody just trying to like hook you and have a weird conversation with you, because that does happen. At least it happens to me. I don't know. You guys let me know. Does that ever happen to you? That somebody's like, they throw out a strange message on Facebook and see, I really got to be careful what I say. Because of a message through Facebook, I'm actually dating somebody that's really amazing right now, that if I had not answered that Facebook message, I wouldn't be dating that person, and that would be a huge regret for me. So super grateful to Facebook. And I've mentioned this before because I saw in a group, there was a group of women, and it was all women. It was some ladies group. I'm involved in a whole bunch of different groups. And what they said was, what do you do when somebody reaches out to you on Facebook? And the feedback was all so negative, like, oh, just block them. Oh, this, like, it was like, what? How are people supposed to reach out to you these days? Why is it a bad thing that somebody reaches out to you on Facebook? And I've always had that mentality. It doesn't mean that you have to continue the conversation. Sometimes you're like, thanks, no thanks. But anyways, like I said, I have always been very open to at least having a small conversation and then deciding from there. And had I not been, I would not have met this person. And again, I'm very, very grateful that I answered that message on Facebook. So, all right. There doesn't appear to be anybody asking any questions. If you have a question afterwards, please don't hesitate to ask. I'm always happy to answer any questions, concerns, or cries of outrage. And I hope you guys have an amazing day, because I'm out for now. Have a great one.